The 1792 Washington President gold piece is one of the more deceptively interesting coins in the American catalog. However, you shouldn't feel too bad if you haven't heard of it before, as it isn't exactly one of the best publicized coins either. Supposedly once owned and carried by George Washington himself as a pocket piece, as far as we know, only a single example of this coin was ever produced in gold, and since 1855 only 8 collectors were lucky enough to number it as a part of their collection, the last of which was renowned collector and numismatic scholar Eric P. Newman, who has owned the coins since 1942. In fact, amongst the thousands of coins that he acquired, the 1792 Washington President gold piece was his unequivocal favorite coin, in his own words taken from a 1975 article he published. This coin is unique in that it was owned by George Washington. It is unique as the earliest gold pattern prepared for United States coinage, and it is unique because only one example of the coin was made. What other American coin can command historical and numismatic respect of that magnitude? Now, that is a prestigious pedigree indeed, and in that view, it is easy to see just why this coin is one of the most prized numismatic relics of early America. But how do we know that the coin was in fact owned and carried by George Washington at all? Or for that matter, why was it made? By whom was it made? And even when or where was it made? Well, the short answer is we really don't. There is no absolute documentary evidence to absolutely prove much of what we today believe about this coin. However, upon examining the known customs of the period and an abundance of circumstantial evidence, a very reasonable, even compelling case can be argued for the coin's actual origins and illustrious provenance as well. Now, for most of this coin's existence, nearly 150 years or so in fact, it was believed, mistakenly so in my opinion, to have been the product of one Jonathan Gregory Hancock. Hancock was a British engraver and die sinker of some talent who produced dies for Obadiah Westwood and his Birmingham-based Westwood Mint. The same alliance gave rise to the 1791 large and small eagle cent pattern coins, to mention but a few. Now, the striking similarities between the 1791 patterns and the 1792 Washington President piece are just glaringly obvious. Which then brings us to the first published account of the coin and its first owner of record, one Gustavus Adolphus Myers. Myers was a Virginia-based politician and attorney, born from a wealthy and somewhat influential family. In an 1855 letter to the British scholarly journal Notes and Queries, he describes both the coin and his thereto unsuccessful attempts to have the coin properly identified at the US Mint in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, the rough sketch that is referred to that he supplied with the letter has been lost to history, but it is clear that it is in fact describing the same coin. The editors of the journal then published a response identifying Hancock's 1791 patterns, specifically the 1791 large eagle, the 1791 small eagle cent, and the 1792 Roman head cent as well, strongly implying that Myers' coin was likely a variety of those also struck in Birmingham by Hancock. Now, to be completely fair, given the evidence that they had to work with at the time, this was not an unreasonable position to take. In fact, it would have been perfectly logical to assume just that. This belief was in later years reinforced by the discovery of a March 10, 1793 letter from Thomas Digges to Thomas Jefferson describing, in some detail, Jonathan Gregory Hancock and Obadiah Westwood as the manufacturers of the Washington patterns. Closer examination of the letter, however, does reveal reveal that the gold coin in question here is never actually mentioned. More recent research, however, published in 2010 by John J. Krelchevik, suggests that the coin was in reality not a European import, but rather struck on American shores instead. In support of his claim, he offers a letter dated 29th of February 1792 from Nicholas Pike to President Washington. Washington and Pike had previously corresponded in 1788 concerning Pike's publication of a new and complete system of arithmetic which Washington held in quite high regard. Pike's letter to the president reads as follows: "I have the honor to request your acceptance of a medal struck in my presence by an ingenious and reputable gentleman, who also made the die, which branch he can execute with great facility and dispatch, and which he will warrant to stand until defaced by usage. He, at present, declines having his name made public, but should this specimen of ingenuity entitle him to the notice of Congress, he would be happy, on suitable terms, to serve the public in that line." It is highly likely that the ingenious and reputable young gentleman referred to in the letter was Jacob Perkins of Newburyport, Massachusetts. Perkins himself was a fairly interesting and accomplished man. He was an engraver, a businessman, and an inventor of some repute. In fact, he invented the D-cylinder printing press upon which the world's first postage stamp, the penny black, was made. Perkins had previously worked under Pike at the then Massachusetts Mint, and is known to have produced the dies for the 1788 Massachusetts copper cents. Perkins is also credited with producing the Washington-born Virginia pieces pictured here, in addition to a Washington funerary medal made around the year 1800. So then why fly in the face of nearly a century and a half of numismatic canon and question the origins of this coin at all? I mean, the design is undoubtedly similar. Why not just say that it was made by Jonathan Hancock and leave things there? Well, to answer that, allow me to introduce a third option still. The coin on your left is the original 1791 Hancock design. In the middle is a 1792 Washington-born Virginia coin by Perkins. And then on the right is a copper pattern struck by Pennsylvania-based Peter Getz, again in 1792. Based on this and several significantly more technical issues that I won't elaborate on for the purposes of this video, it becomes apparent that the last two were likely copied from the first, or at the very least, albeit somewhat less likely, shared a common inspiration for the design, such as a pair of profile images drawn by Joseph Wright in 1790, or a similar engraving by Pierre-Eugène de Cimetière done around 1780. So, to condense a somewhat long story, taking the original Hancock pattern and comparing it to the Washington-born Virginia piece by Perkins, several differences become apparent. The chin is doubled more subtly on the Perkins coin. The Perkins coin also has larger, more prominent buttons. The epaulette has 9 tassels on the Hancock piece but only 8 on the Perkins one. The size of the upper loop in Washington's hair ribbon also differs. The Perkins coins all display what appears to be a small die bump, although it could just as easily have been a deliberate design feature underneath Washington's jaw. This specifically is a feature that is not seen on any of the Hancock coins at all. I could easily go on, but I think you get the point. Then, from there, comparing the Washington-born Virginia specimen to the 1792 Washington President Gold example, it becomes very soon apparent that you are dealing with this same die. And, as a result, the same die maker. In this case, Jacob Perkins from Massachusetts and not Jonathan Hancock from Birmingham, as previously believed. So, having addressed the coin's origins, we now turn our attention to its provenance. Why is it commonly held that this coin was in fact George Washington's own pocket piece? The most compelling evidence for this is twofold. Firstly, there is the wear pattern on the coin itself. Although significant, the wear is fairly gentle and even throughout. Not at all what you would expect to see from a coin that was in circulation or kept as a prized collector's piece, suggesting that it was used as a pocket piece instead. Secondly, is again the previously mentioned letter from Nicholas Pike to George Washington, which was likely accompanied by the 1792 Washington President Medal itself, the first to publicly claim that this was in fact Washington's own pocket piece was New York-based coin dealer and auctioneer Edward Cogan. In the 1875 auction catalog listing of the coin, he writes, "In the absence of any positive history connected with the piece, I think it is most probably struck in compliment to General Washington, and no other in gold was allowed to be issued. It was possibly used for some time as a pocket piece, which would account for the evidence of slight circulation it exhibits." In that auction, the coin managed to sell for $500. By comparison, in the same auction, a Class 1 1804 dollar was sold for $325. The next mention comes in the auction of the Parmelee collection in 1890, where the cataloger David Prosky writes the following. It is very probable that Washington had this piece given to him, and the slight wear it shows would indicate its use as a pocket piece. Colonel M.I. Cohen, its former owner, entertained the same idea. Now, it is interesting to mention that the aforementioned Colonel Mendez Cohen received the item as a gift from its first owner of record, Gustavus Adolphus Meyer. The Meyer and Cohen families were apparently closely connected and acquainted for some time. So then, is it possible that Gustavus Myers did in fact discover the coin's true origins after submitting his 1855 inquiry to Notes and Queries after all? And exactly how did the coin come to be in his possession to begin with? Unfortunately, this is yet another mystery that is connected to this coin. But one quite interesting theory is that the metal might have been a family heirloom of sorts, and traces back to Gustavus's grandfather, Meyer Myers. Meyer Myers was a well-known New York-based silversmith and active Freemason during the time when Washington himself, who was also a prominent Freemason, was resident in New York. So, based on this, it is possible that Washington gave the coin to Myers at some point, who then passed it to his son and then finally to his grandson in 1855. At any rate, the belief that the coin was Washington's pocket piece managed to take hold. Further evidence of this is when the coin eventually became a part of the Brand collection in 1908. Now, Virgil Brand kept meticulous records of his expansive collection and made a note in his journal that this coin was in fact unique, and in brackets he listed it as GW pocket piece. By now it had become a part of numismatic legend, moving from the Colonel Green collection in 1933 for $2,500, where it stayed until the collection was dispersed in 1942 when Eric P. Newman acquired the coin for $4,000. So, whether you believe that it was a $10 gold eagle pattern, a medal, a presentation piece, or anything else, the history connected to this piece is remarkable and simply just fascinating. So, in summation, I'll take the liberty of quoting Eric Newman once again. What other American coin can command such historical and numismatic respect? It is fair to say that the Washington 13-star pattern of 1792 in gold left numismatists with many problems to solve as to its reason for being its true use, and its provenance. So, let me know what you think of the 1792 Washington President 13-star gold piece in the comment section below. Do you think that it was in fact President Washington's pocket piece? And do you think it was made in England or in the US? Remember to subscribe to WNN and activate notifications with the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you ever so much for watching, and remember to keep collecting and have a great day.